Hey, what's up going guys? 2 years ago, I left a question here with my keyboard, the RAKK Lam-Ang Pro, whether it was still worth it in early 2022. Although talking about the features, it was showing some signs back then that it was getting dated, considering that the market for budget keyboards wasn't as big as it is now. And not to mention that the first iteration of the RAKK Lam-Ang was released about a half a decade ago in 2019. Welcoming into the mix, this is the V2 of the RAKK Lam-Ang Lite, a little brother to the Lam-Ang Pro Max that was released last year in November. RAKK Gears did send this keyboard in for a review, but that won't affect my thoughts and opinions in making this video. Upon unboxing, we're greeted right away with the keyboard itself along with the inclusions of the following. You have 2 extra switches, a keycap puller, a switch puller, a long USB cable, and of course the instruction manual. Let's talk about what is essentially new with the keyboard and go along for a quick comparison from the old Lam-Ang. The new Lam-Ang Lite is now sporting that gasket mounting system with the use of silicone, and it is mounted through with the plate, and it does not use adhesive gaskets either. Second, it replaces that stock steel plate and now comes with a polycarbonate plate that should provide a softer typing feel and deeper notes of the sound profile. Third, the inclusions of sheets and foams have made this keyboard up to date, so to speak, when it comes to what comes in with the keyboard out of the box. Buying a keyboard kit at this price didn't really include any additional foams before. And fourth, a better side profile has been introduced by staggering the case in layers, and in doing so, it gave us these side-firing LEDs that add a bit of flair to the aesthetic of the keyboard. Now let's do a quick sound test to see how it performs at its stock. First and foremost, let's talk about the design. What I immediately see from the Lam-Ang Lite is how recessed the USB port is, which gave me an idea or a sign that this board is now using a daughter board. Now with that inclusion, recessing the USB port gives your cable a much cleaner look as it can pass through over on the left or right side or at the center of the keyboard, so it is simple but elegant. The illumination of the side-firing LEDs is pretty much decent, but it should highlight it more in darker setups. Moving over with the typing feel, I really like how this board is sitting around in the middle as it is not too overbearing on the softer typing feel, but not so stiff as well. The silicone gaskets have just the right amount of stiffness, which gives a good contrast to the soft polycarbonate plate of the board. The subtle curving on the bottom of the board helped me to type more comfortably, as this low-key reminded me of the previous design of the Lam-Ang with chamfered edges. As for the sound profile, this would be considered one of your typical budget keyboards as of 2024, but I think the sound profile by default is subdued thanks to the silicone plate foam. I think opting for poorer material would have been nicer. The stock EVA case foam is something that I wouldn't really mind, as it did its job in eliminating the hollowness of the case. The gasket mounting system has elevated the overall acoustic as it diminished the inconsistency of a sound profile with the tray mounting system back then. Another small but big detail in making the board sound full is the PCB having no whatsoever of those flex cuts. This is certainly my bias when it comes to the PCB specs, whether it is 1.6 or 1.2mm. I don't necessarily mind the thickness as long as it doesn't have the flex cuts, we're good. Talking about the cons of the Lam-Ang Lite V2, there are primarily 2 from my testing. First is the ribbon cable. Working with ribbon cables between the connection of the daughter board and the main PCB scares me so much so that it is a reminder for everyone to take precautions in removing the ribbon cable. I do hope we could have gone with a JST connection, as it is safer to deal with. Second is how the keycaps are slightly off-centered. Although these PBT keycaps have a great texture that is not too much, I do kinda see it right away how the legends are off-centered to the right. So it is not exactly a deal breaker, but it is something that you should be aware of. In conclusion, the one thing that I always stress out is the after sales. No matter how cheap the board can be, going over with a trusted brand like RAKK should be a clear indication as to why I don't just easily recommend other keyboards in the market. It will be available soon for a retail price of 1,495 Philippine pesos. So yeah, it is that insane how I mentioned that it packs with foam at this price point. The big flex also on this keyboard is how they retain the volume wheel, as this is the biggest selling point of the Lam-Ang. And now it is up to you, the viewer, whether you'd like to go for a screen, that is the Lam-Ang Pro Max, or the volume wheel, the Lam-Ang Lite V2. For me, this is a homage to original Lam-Ang, which I could yap all day long. But generally, I had a great time with that keyboard back then, as it paved the way for me on what it meant to modding your own keyboard. We'll revisit the Lam-Ang Lite V2 soon as we attempt to make the sound even better with my preferred switches and keycaps for this. It is only fitting that we go way back in elevating what is already a good budget board. Huge thanks again to RAKK Gears for hooking us up with this keyboard. Anyway guys, that's pretty much about for this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.